Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the annual meeting, the 2014 annual meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the entire board is present. Call the meeting to order at 7:20. Hope you all enjoyed a little reception downstairs. We got to meet some of the people who make this township run. Let's see, with that, let's see, there are no additions, deletions to the agenda. We'll go right into the motions. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order, 10th edition, and Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in brief.
Support.
Okay, I got the motion by Clerk Ranka, and it was seconded by, well, I heard first was Treasurer Van Oss, to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, the 10th edition, otherwise Rules of Order newly revised, sometimes just RONR. The books we have look just like this, and we use about this much of it on a regular basis, but man, it covers absolutely everything. We use all of it unless it's superseded by state law. Otherwise, it's just the way business is done. Sometimes state laws overrule the rules in the Rules of Order, and try to say that a bunch of times. Any discussion among the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving Robert's Rules of Order 10th edition, Rules of Order newly revised, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? These stand approved.
Mr. Supervisor, I motion we approve the March 25th, 2013 annual meeting minutes.
Support.
Okay, moved by Clerk Ranka, seconded by Trustee Budney. The minutes of the annual meeting from 1 year ago, we approve them on an annual basis. Any discussion among the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the minutes as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Those minutes stand approved. At this time, I'll turn the mic over to the Township Manager for some introductions of the, aside from himself, the rest of the people who make the township work.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Dale Riom, Township Manager. Before I introduce the staff, I just want to say it's been one heck of a year, one crazy year, one exciting year, one long, cold winter of a year. So later on, when we talk about the accomplishments and details, you understand why I made that comment. But to begin, I'd like to start on this side of the room, which is my left. Our Township engineers are here, Sohail Sabak and Russ Whitman. Joe Keefe from United Water, who runs our wastewater treatment plant. And to the far right is Thomas Orty, Township Legal Counsel, and his partners Al and Larry are in the back as well. Thank you for coming. And Brian Borden from LSL Planning was here earlier, and he's in Brownstown attending their Planning Commission meeting. So, and we also have Tom Montleone from Hungerford Company, and from a township staff, Chief Joe Porcerelli, Mike Duker, Duncan Murdoch, Lorinda Beneteau, Tim Rooney, and Tim's going to remind me, don't forget Ted Fournier in the control room like I did last year. I think the year before that and the year before that. And from an employee, did I miss one? Sue Posiask from the Recreation Department. So
We're all familiar with our finance director.
See, it's like Ted right in front of my face. So, thank you, sir. So I'm looking forward to talking about the actual projects and past accomplishments. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Mr. Riam. All right, at this point, and this is, this is a heartfelt recognition of the commission and committee members. We're going to go by the liaisons who can introduce the, what did I miss?
Oh.
And Deputy Clerk Gray. Right in front of us. Oh, how are we doing so far? Okay. Completely, okay, moving on, moving on to the other people who make and get paid a lot less, make the township run, our commission and committee members, and we're going to do this by the liaisons who work with them and know the people best, and that way if they forget anyone, now they can sort it out themselves. So I'll turn it over to, I'll start with Mrs. Smith. Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First, I want to thank the members of the Communications Commission and the Festival Commission. Both groups are really lively, dedicated, and hardworking. While we certainly don't agree on all things, we definitely do bring different perspectives to the table, and that is really to be commended. We also strive towards achievable goals, and for that, I want to thank each and every one of you for your time, energy, enthusiasm, and passion. This year, the Communications Commission will be delivering a new website in the next few months, so we're very excited about that. The Festival Commission is planning a great Island Fest this year with many exciting changes. Additionally, we are working on the Centennial Celebration that is slated for Saturday, October 11th, so please save that date. Both chairs, Kathy Walker and Chad Novak, have invested large amounts of time in taking on these endeavors, and for that I do really want to say thank you. Finally, I would like to thank every commissioner on every commission who serve the residents of Groseal, because this task of balancing the needs of our community is definitely a difficult one. I believe that our first priority, however, must be to keep the township's budget balanced and to live within our means. Our future really does hold many unknowns, and we have to keep that top of mind and always be prepared for the proverbial rainy day. And that's basically it on my end. So thank you to all commissioners. Appreciate it.
Okay, just what I would like to see is, I saw Kathy Walker sneak in.
Would you like me to?
Yeah, would you please?
I'm sorry.
They made the effort to come here, so.
Darn it. Next year I'm going to make a note of that. Kathy Walker, would you please stand and... I love your outfit, by the way. Chad, this is Chad Novak, Festival Commission Chair. Thank you.
And who is? I can't see him. Who's with?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Richard is here as well. Yeah.
Another member of the Communication Commission.
Yep, Richard Nielsen. Yep.
So, okay. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Mr. Posiask.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have the privilege of representing as liaison 2 committees in Groseal, excuse me, and the third one's calling. Anybody got a hammer?
I think that's a fine. I think that's a fine.
Anybody got a hammer? I love technology.
No, I'll turn mine off.
Again, I have the privilege of working with 2 very special and unique groups of people. One group in the Greenways Open Space Committee, which is really, really working hard at coming up with a concerted and combined effort on how we can best use our open spaces, whether they are bike paths, whether they are open spaces in the traditional sense, whether they are soft paths, hard paths, whether they want to work with the Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy and with Groseal Recreation. I'd like to call that super group the Outdoors Committee here. And you will see great work coming from them, like again this year. Cliff St. Pierre is here, I believe. Cliff, there you are. Stand up, Cliff. Let everybody see who you are. Cliff has been the chair of this committee for years and years, and he brings a great deal of enthusiasm and a good memory with it. Serving on the committee is Patricia Nielsen, who's sitting directly to his left. Wave your hand. Stand up. Woody Clark. Woody Clark is here somewhere.
He will be.
He will be. Daryl Filarski. Roberta Urbani is a new addition to our committee, and she happens to also serve on the Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy, so we've got some synergy going here. We meet on the first Tuesday of each month. Come on down and see us. We have a very, very good group there. The other group is every bit as different and every bit as energetic as you'd ever expect. I've often teased them as herding cats. They are one powerhouse of a committee, the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Advisory Commission. The chair for this is, Brian Pollock, and Brian can't be here this evening, but he's been the chair, I believe, ever since the commission was started, and he's really doing a good job at it. He's joined on that committee by Roger Will. Remember Roger Will? Roger was here earlier this evening. I'm sorry, he was not. My apology. Jane Fiegel. Jane is another energetic person. Alan Veliquette. You may know Alan Veliquette because he drives black and white cars on the island. Rob Albrecht. And these folks have got a stunning achievement. They got that bike path done on Horse Mill in pretty nice shape, and we've got a little bit of polishing to do there, but it'll soon be the star of our fleet of bike paths. We've also got a nice donation from the Island Roadrunners. They have donated a fountain, and that fountain will hopefully be placed at the southern end of our bike path system, somewhere in the area of Meridian and Grove. And this is a bike path, a fountain for drinking for people who are physically challenged, and for pets. So that's a very nice donation to them. I wanted to acknowledge that. They donated the fountain, and now it's up to the Bike Path Committee to pay for it. I need your help buying bricks. We are going to have memorial bricks and have a paver around that fountain. You should see more of it as we're coming into the next 2 months, and hopefully we'll have a fountain and some bricks to show you as examples during the Island Fest. Those are my two committees, and they're great. Thank you for the privilege of serving with them.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Posiask. Mr. Malvesto.
Sure.
Excuse me. I've been fortunate to serve on as a liaison for with two different committees. One being the volunteer fire department, headed up by Chief Duncan Murdoch. And I just want to say that it's been a very educational experience. I like to say nobody really knows what these guys go through, but I'll keep saying it. You don't. And as we sit through our commission meetings, it's a learning experience every meeting. These guys go out of their way to fill me in, make me knowledgeable of what's taking place and appreciative of what they do. Our chairperson is Dr. Stuart Keeler. We also have Jerry Bringard. Excuse me. Drawing a blank all of a sudden.
This way.
Yep. We'll get it. Kurt Kernaffel, Gordon Miles, myself, and of course Chief Duncan Murdoch. But these guys have really served this community over and above of what most of us residents see or understand. And they do this on an everyday and often every night. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, they do it all the time, continuously, excuse me. The other commission I'm on is the Recreation Commission, and that's headed up by our manager, Tim Rooney. Our chair would be Wally Ketcher. Of course, we have Mike Swales, Greg Meyering, Bill Moreau, John Conroy, Lee Schelke, Ann Hayner Magrum, Helen Woodward Ryan, Ethel Yaps, myself as liaison. And here's another energetic committee. They're in charge of everything that takes place in regards to recreation on this island. And if anybody's ever looked at channels and seen all the activities and programs and things that are taking place, it's overwhelming. I don't know what, I don't think we ever give these people all their just due. They do more than most of us ever see. But I want to thank both committees, and I do appreciate the opportunity to be their liaison with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I think it's nice to see that all the trustee liaisons are excited and really enjoy being on the commissions that they're on as liaisons. And I'm certainly in that group. I have the pleasure of working with the Zoning Board of Appeals and the DPS Commission. Now, the Zoning Board of Appeals is a board that is probably one of the least known and has one of the most difficult jobs out there, simply because they have to take what a resident would like to do with their property and match that against what the zoning code says they can do with the property and come up with something usually in between. I really enjoy this board because all the people on it are enthused and do their homework and come prepared. They've read the appeals, and they try and hammer something out that's fair both to the community and to that landowner. On the commission board, I always want to say it's a commission, and it's not. It's the zoning board. Our chair is Jim Bittinger. Jim does a wonderful job of handling those appeals and leading us. Our vice chair is Gary Bailey, who's seated over here. Gary. Jacqueline Snow Davis. Robert Pierce. Bob is our secretary. John Carnego, who does a wonderful job. Charles Voino, who is our alternate. And we have a planning commission representative. It's Ann Jaworowski and myself. And we meet on the fourth Tuesday at 7 o'clock, so come and join us on those fourth Tuesdays. They're a real good group. They're a hard-working group, and I thank them for all that they do. As I said, the other commission is the Public Service Commission, or the DPS Commission, as we like to call it. They have the wonderful task of looking out for your roads and your water and your sewer. Unfortunately, with the way things are set up, people don't understand that we don't have as much control as we'd like to have over our water and roads and sewer. And so it's a constant battle for us to try and do anything. On that commission, we are, and I said this last year, and I'll say it every year I can, we are very lucky to have William Kostek as our chair. He's got just a world of knowledge regarding this topic, and puts in all kinds of effort as a resident, and from being that being his field, he gives a lot back to this community. Bill, by the way, would like to be here tonight. He isn't. He's recuperating from he had his knee replaced, and unfortunately, he's recuperating down in Florida. So, but he's doing well, and he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Also on the commission is Jim Nelson, Ron Wilder, Leslie Schmidtke, who brings a wealth of knowledge to that commission from his days of working at the DPS Commission. Phil Kennedy, John Riley, who is our vice chair, and Lorinda Beneteau. So thank you guys. I know I say a lot in our meetings that you should come to our commission meetings or come to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to you, but you ought to just take the time to come to some commission meeting and really see what these people do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. We'll move on to the clerk's report. Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Supervisor, thank you. So we'll be pretty brief today. Just we'll start with the goals and objectives and then go through some general aspects of what the clerk's office does. Goals and objectives for this year are to work with the commissions and committees to do a little different job of having standardized meeting minutes and agendas and having them centrally located at the Township Hall here. And then also to prepare for, train, and run the state elections this year, the August primary election and then the November general election. As far as accomplishments from the last year, a lot of continuous improvement over the last year. Started with having an email server, so we now have all township emails or at least all the township official emails are run through the township and retained at the township. We went paperless this year, so rather than having a several pound paper packet to each of us and a couple other ones out in the community for every single meeting, we went and purchased tablets, so it's much more cost effective, much more time efficient at the clerk's office, and then also much more ecologically friendly. In addition to that, we've expanded the number of commissions that post their minutes and agendas online. So a busy year for the clerk's office this past year and another busy one upcoming. The highlights from the clerk's office are primary elections, records retention, and voter registration. We also have the ability to serve or to process passports, which is both a help for the community members, gives them an easy place to come down and get your passport taken care of, and also serves as a small revenue generation for the township. Last year we processed a little over 1,000 passports. So it's a nice service for the residents. Just some general statistics for the island. The number of residents we have per the 2010 census is 10,371. Of those, 8,842 are registered to vote. So if the ratio there says we've got a very mature demographic on the island. In closing, I'd like to have a sincere and heartfelt thank you to Sharon Gray, Deputy Clerk, as well as Brian Friel in the Clerk's office as well for all of the assistance and the knowledge and the professionalism that they bring to the Clerk's office. So thank you, Sharon and Brian. As far as my commission reports, or our commission reports, I shouldn't say they're not my commission, I just have the ability to liaise with them. Starting with the police commission, Carl Bletcher is the chairman. He's in attendance, if you wouldn't mind standing, Carl. And Bob Zelasco standing right next to him also. Thank you for your service. In addition, we're fortunate to have Joe Dixon, Paul Anderson on the commission, and of course, Chief of Police Joe Porcerelli. From a planning commission standpoint, John Schweikart is our chair. We're very fortunate as to have John as well with his knowledge of planning, zoning, and his history with the island. Additionally, we have Jay Frucci, Steve Lemoyne, Michelle Bartlett, Ann Jaworowski, Jim Davis, Brian Pollock, and Lori Zawalski from the commission. So all of the people there are very, very dedicated, and we're very happy to have them serving with us. Highlights from the Planning Commission. There were 6 meetings in the Planning Commission last year, dealt primarily with land divisions, site plan reviews, a few special land use cases for a hotel and for a boathouse rowing crew, and more special land use. In addition to that, we do an annual review of the zoning ordinances to figure out which zoning ordinances need to be amended, either because they need to be caught up with state law or because they're posing some type of an undue restraint on the residents. So, for example, if we have a lot of cases that go to the ZBA, then we try, and they're continuously approved, and we try and amend the ordinances to be a little more in standing with what the township expects. Very brief highlights from the police department. There were 8,466 calls for service last year. That's a tremendous number. There were 912 of those calls were for animal assistance from the animal control officer. There were 1,414 verbal warnings issued. Verbal warnings aren't really issued, but they're discussed verbally for traffic offenses. 85 complaints to the Detective Bureau for investigation, and a little over 214,000 miles driven by the patrol cars. So a very active year for the police department, and very exceptional service for the police department, as well as being named the safest community to live in the state of Michigan. So very good accolades for the police department. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Ranka. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Please bear with me. I'm about an hour and a half from losing my voice. That may be
I'm a little less.
That may be a warning or a blessing. The State of the Township Treasurer's Office will be my first comments. The 2014-15 fiscal year has come to an end, and our Treasurer's Office continues to work towards mutual goals of sustaining the Treasurer's mission statement: effectively collect and distribute tax revenue to grow seal, collect and process township receipts, invest idle township funds, and to continue to serve the public in a most efficient and courteous manner. Memberships to association allow for educational and networking opportunities, the sharing of knowledge and information for a competent department and a well-knowledge staff, and all of our staff members do attend those. The Grosse Ile Township Treasurer's Office website is updated monthly, and is probably one of the most visited sites on our website, mostly for tax information. Online bill payment option has become a very popular payment option for residents and taxpayers. We look forward to ways to accommodate our residents for their informational needs. Tax collection efficiency, the tax collection and distribution for 13 and 14 ended very successfully. More than $25 million in taxes were collected and distributed to the county and the schools in a timely manner. Wayne County now allows municipalities to deliver our rolls in reporting electronically, which saves me a trip to Detroit a couple times a year, and it's worked out very efficiently. The investment of idle funds, investing idle funds is a very complicated business today, especially in municipal government. We can't just go out for the cash. We have to make sure we protect those investments that we have in guaranteed investments. The rates offered continue to be very, very low, most of that driven by the feds. As an example, in January 2008, to date, we had collected $907,000 in interest. In 2014, it was $16,114 in interest. Now, that creates another burden on the township. These are funds that we don't have to spend, and we do have to replace. We will continue to work with our banks and financial institutions to ensure that we get and receive the best possible rates and the lowest possible fees on all of our accounts. Our staff assist resident taxpayers and visitors in a professional and courteous manner. They use their knowledge and their expertise to provide the best customer service, and I am always available either in my office or on my cell phone. I'd like to thank my staff for the quality of service they provide and their commitment to work. It's really a teamwork, and they're doing a great job. In the fall of 2013, the retirement of a veteran cashier, Barbara McMahon, left a vacancy in our department, and we thank her for many years of dedicated service to the township. A young lady named Carrie Lockwood has stepped up, was hired in October to fill a vacancy, and has done so with amazing ease. The position requires courteous, conscientious worker to accept the receipts and revenues of the township. Carrie was in the banking industry before. She came to work for us. She's been a great asset, and we graciously welcome Carrie to our team. My deputy treasurer, Annette Wordsmith, divides her time between tax and finance departments to accomplish the tasks of her position. She researches new options and uses the latest technology to improve our department and assist taxpayers. Carolyn Johnson is our payroll and payable assistant. Carolyn is one of the busiest workers in the office. I never see her with her head up off of her desk. And of course, a special thanks from me goes to Ann for all the guidance and direction. She's helped me a great deal. I thought I knew a lot till I got here. On the commission level, I sit on a couple of commissions. Actually, I sit on a commission, a committee, an authority, but fortunately they don't all meet a lot. I'm the liaison to the Airport Commerce Park Commission, which is chaired by Mr. Ron Moran, John Rathall, Chris Manns, Walter Stoll, and Jeffrey Folbaum. And of course the airport manager, Mike Duker, who is just can't say enough for the shoes that he had to step in and fill. He not only did it, but he did it exceptionally, and he did it rapidly, which helped us a great deal. The main focus of the Airport Commerce Park Commission is to see that the airport is an enterprise zone and never comes back to the burden of the taxpayers of this community. We have done so successfully, and it's getting even more success with our new additions to our new tenants, and we're looking forward to carrying on that process. Also, I sit on the Brownfield as liaison to the Brownfield Authority, which has the same members, because most of the Brownfield issues arise in the airport and the airport's Commerce Park. And that, again, is managed by Mike Duker. He does a great job with that. I also sit on as a liaison to the Construction Board of Appeals, which is interesting. I've sat on the Construction Board of Appeals for about 15 years now. I now liaise, and I think we've had 3 meetings in 15 years. That's a good thing. That means that everybody's doing their job, and we don't have people coming and complaining about issues of construction on this island. And then I also sit as liaison to the Airport Advisory Commission. Oh, I'll go back. The Construction Board of Appeals is Jim Morris, who I understand will not be reappointed due to health reasons, Anthony Kraus, Alan Anderson, and Ala Harafi, who have all sat on this commission for a long time. And when we have had issues with the Construction Board of Appeals, they've been major issues, and we got through them with no bloodshed, which is a good thing. The Airport Advisory Commission, which is chaired by Alan Anderson. Alan, you're in the room, aren't you?
He was earlier.
He escaped on me. Mark Lovis, Scott Smith, Carl Riggs, Pam Blumall, and myself. And again, Mike Duker is the airport manager in that. You know, I've been at this for 25 years in either commission or board position. And the reality is that this township is governed by this board, but it's managed and guided by the non-paid members of the commission, which are all citizens of Grosse Ile. And I can't say enough, because without them, these jobs would be impossible to do. So I want to thank all the members of the commissions, all the managers. You've all done a great job. Thank you very much for your help. And I hope everybody in the audience understands just how important they are. Come to our commission meetings. It'd be interesting. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of information goes back and forth, and they're all led, and everybody is very concerned about the most important thing in this township, and that's your tax dollars. Nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Year-end objective from our township manager, Mr. Riem.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Before I begin, Finance Director Darsnick reminded me that I missed someone else, and that is Tom Mountain, the old partner, Mike George's, and that they actually, I referenced them as Hungerford. They did a merger, and they're with Yo and Yo. So, correct it again.
Oh, you have a good day.
Yes. I need to. So, but I do have my cheat sheet in front of me, and this is, I'm going to overview and highlight my annual report. But when I started putting this together in January and February, I was starting at that point in time just feeling exhausted. Thank you. This has been one exhausting year. It was a little frustrating from time to time. It was dealing with negativity and comments, and just you watch the news, you get kind of overwhelmed with that type of stuff. And I started putting together this list, and I thought, well, heck, no wonder we've accomplished a lot of things. That's why we're so exhausted and tired. So between this board, the employees, all of the community volunteers and commissioners and committee members is why we do get these things accomplished. But I don't want to steal any of Ann's thunder related to the budget and the finances and the trends, so I'll let her address that. And some of these items were actually mentioned, and these are just the big ones. There's many more, but It was mentioned the email archive system. We also installed a new computer server due to its age. The tablets and e-packets, the choosing of the vendor to redo the Groesville website, that should be done in a month to 2 months, month and a half-ish. That's rolling along really well right now. It was mentioned that Barb McMahon had retired and sadly missed, but replaced by a wonderful person, becoming a great member of the Township family, Carrie Lockwood. We did some safety training. We've been working on the State of Michigan sewer compliance program and doing some infiltration study analysis and dealing with the state as it relates to our sanitary permit. Installed a kayak launch at the north end of the Water's Edge Marina, and partnered with the Groesville Nature and Land Conservancy to landscape the Groesville Parkway East River Road waterfront area. And when I say partnered, I should say that thanks to the volunteers of the Groesville Nature and Land Conservancy, they have really adopted that park and that waterfront area, but they've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and thank you to the Community Recreation Commission as well. Let's see, from a contract standpoint, we approved the operating agreement for the Township Equestrian Center. We've completed the contract negotiations with the Technical Professional Office Association Workers of Michigan, and we completed the construction of the horse mill bike path, and that is still subject to some loose ends and punch list items that were not completed at the end of last year. And there was the redoing of this electronic boardroom. 2 of the 3 phases were completed at the time of this report, and you'll be asked to consider the 3rd phase later. And from a road standpoint, we did select concrete slab replacement and repair, and we've begun the investigation of a chip seal program, which is a maintenance treatment that used to be very, very, very popular, but the county has, for some reason, gotten away from it, and it's something that we think is worth looking into and trying to do that to extend the maintenance and life expectancy of the roadways. Along with the different websites and the different types of systems, the content management system, which is the operation of the web page and who will be using it. We've adopted policies for that. Installed drainage improvements for the Park Lane school area. Fire department designed and ordered a new fire truck. And the 5th year, through a lot of hard work and volunteers, we did the culling of the deer. And it was done very, very, very cost effective, but a lot of time and effort. We have begun the implementation, or excuse me, the evaluation of the township ordinances and the enforcement. And we implemented a 2-tier retirement system, which has been a main focus of cost containment. And from a trivia standpoint, the ordinance office responded to an average of 56 complaints a month last year, which is actually down from 57 the year before. And sadly, we mourn the death of our friend and co-worker Barry Sedlock, the DPS director. And now where do we go from here? We need to, and the top priority is just establish the priorities for the community, the elected officials, and implement the plan once we have agreed upon those priorities to do just that and accomplish that. And from a finance perspective, I'll leave that discussion to Ian Darsnick. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Mr. Im. Okay, guess it's my turn. I'm going to present mine in kind of reverse order. I'm going to talk about the commissions, committees I'm involved with. Begin with the Downtown Development Authority. Got a couple things on the front burner now. We have I forget her official title, a land use planner, who is evaluating what we're doing on Macomb Street and maybe making some suggestions how we could better utilize the space there based on her knowledge as a municipal and commercial planner. Maybe we can just have a more vibrant Macomb Street. So we're looking at that. And also, the Downtown Development Authority is funding partly the centennial celebration this October. You know, the township, as a separate entity, was born in October of 1914. The police department started slightly before then, but we separated, or Mungwagon Township basically dissolved, and we were the last island standing. So we are going to be celebrating. I'm interested in your inputs on what would make the celebration. Actually, Chad Novak, I begged the assistance of the Festival Commission, who are working diligently right now on Island Fest, but as soon as the dust settles on that, he promises me they're going to be hard at work planning the centennial celebration. So
we're working in tandem, in conjunction with it. It's got to be linear. We can't
linear, okay. So
can't wait.
Run it in parallel, not in sequence. Excellent. Bless her heart. Thank you to the Festival Commission for taking on that challenge, but we're looking for the inputs you want to see on your centennial celebration. So the DDA is chaired by Mr. Ron Moran. The other members are Ms. Susie Harrison, Mrs. Gloria Trudell, Mr. Peter Stachel, Mr. Eric Anderson, Mr. Jay Frucci, and Mrs. Carol Knope, who serves as our secretary. The next one I'm involved in is the Board of Review. This is a mandatory board by state law. This is where you appeal your property taxes. Tax assessment is one of the three key functions that a township provides. It gets into way back to the Land Division Acts and why we still have townships in this state. I think 20 of the 50 states do have townships. It leaves us with no unincorporated areas. So, you know, if some states you're either in the city or you're out in the county, well, here you're in a city or you're in the township for your local government. And those functions are, the clerk is responsible for, among other things, elections and maintaining records. The treasurer receives the tax dollars and pays the bills. And the supervisor is responsible for running the meetings and assessment probably being the most important part of it. We're the first hands in your wallet, and the Board of Review allows you to protest or complain in an official manner about how your property is assessed. So the Board of Review, with Mr. Richard Nielsen, chair. He's with us tonight bravely. They just finished March Board of Review. Ms. Shelley Schmidtke, Mr. William Mead, and Mr. Timothy Walker, and again, serving as the secretary in my stead is Mrs. Carol Knope. Again, they finished March Board of Review. Results to come out shortly. Let's see, we go on to I appoint to the Elected Officials Compensation Committee. That has been somewhat fallow. Mr. Michael Moko is the remaining member. We have to stand that up in the it's an odd system, odd number of years. So in 2015, I'm hoping Mr. Moko will volunteer to serve as chair and will populate. I'll need 4 more members. So if you think I'm getting paid too much, this is your opportunity to cut my bank account. Same with my friends here. The Senior Alliance, I just want to make sure none of the people who work for this community are not overlooked. And there is no liaison to some of these other organizations. Senior Alliance, Jack Frucci is the island's representative to that. We are the oldest community downriver. And Jack is as dynamic a person as anybody I've ever met. If you all met him, he'll put you to work somewhere. And he is our liaison to the Senior Alliance. He's also been asked to take a position in their board of directors, so obviously they're impressed with them also. Island Beautification Committee, again, we don't have a liaison. They just they're just one of the reasons the place just looks good. Well, I like coming home. Art Kester is the chair. Mrs. Pam Frucci, no surprise, she's on beautification. Mrs. Linda Tilley, Miss Irma Slimko, Mr. Gerard Page, Mrs. Michelle Babcock, Mrs. Julia Roscoe, Mr. Brian Medved, Mr. Richard Eifert, all island beautification. So get a chance, thank those people for keeping the place looking so good. And one last serving officer is our dangerous buildings officer. And we're getting some work out of him now. Again, just to helping take care of some of the less than safe structures we have, and that's Mr. Mike Perry. So those are the other people who make this township run, as you know, we've all pointed out. People who make this island work. I have to point out a few other people. We have two of them present, my wife Ann, Wally's wife Susan, the spouses of us who are willing to let us give up our time, who we inevitably put to work to help us with projects and help us set up these events and work on things. Maureen Budney, June Van Oss, Carrie Ranka, Roseanne Malvesto. Thank these ladies when you bump into, and Scott, these ladies and Scott, when you bump into in Kroger's, because we wouldn't be able to do this without their support, blessing, and overlooking the time we spend away. So with that, I will move on to my report. It's a little bit longer, so I'll read it. And some of this has been covered before, but the annual report for 2014, the state of the township. Your Board of Trustees midway through our second year in office. We've all learned much over the past year and continue to make measurable improvements in township efficiencies and governance. This annual report will serve to present the state of the township based on a combination of facts, observations, and, of course, educated opinions. My mission in my 6 years as supervisor, my mission continues to ensure that the Board of Trustees and the township staff preserve Grosse Ile Township as one of our country's most desirable residential communities. While our population has stabilized, we still have much to do, as there are still too many empty houses, classrooms, and shops throughout our island. So with the support of your Board of Trustees, I will continue to seek and implement every means to develop and market those assets that distinguish Grosse Ile Township as a family's best destination to call home. We all have a stake in this, so I'll constantly seek your inputs and advice on how to improve our performance. Looking back, Michigan's economic outlook has improved dramatically, and the loss of residents and revenues has finally reversed for Grosse Ile. Together, we have survived some tough times, made worse by the loss of Mr. Barry Sedlock, one of Michigan's best public servants. His leadership, expertise, and concern for the community are sorely missed. I hope you can appreciate that we are operating this township with a minimum staff who somehow continue to provide those municipal services that residents of a major metropolitan area have come to expect. None of our current successes or future endeavors would be possible without their dedicated efforts. Supported by this exceptional staff, Grosse Ile's Board of Trustees is working hard to ensure our township remains the most desirable residential community in Michigan. Probably our most noteworthy achievement over the past year is our national recognition as the safest place to live in Michigan. Although it's no surprise to us residents, this title is wonderful news, and we intend to build upon the overall concept of safety as one aspect of quality of life. While Mavoto LLC issued the award based solely on reported crime statistics, we know there are many more aspects to safety in our daily lives, in our everyday lives. I think we can agree that rapid response in medical emergency, a rescue from the surrounding waters or ice, or just making our homes and businesses accessible during weather events are also safety concerns. Through the teamwork of the police, police reserves, fire and rescue, public works, we enjoy an exceptionally safe community. Beyond being Michigan's safest place to live, we have increased our recreational opportunities as another of our quality of life goals. Your approval of a dedicated millage for recreation will enable us to maintain the offerings that previously strained our budget. We will not disappoint you. Volunteer efforts, coordinated by both the township staff and nonprofit organizations, continue to improve our secluded waterfront park on the Detroit River. Look for future improvements on this stretch of sandy beach. I'm convinced there are not many hideaways as quietly beautiful as this hidden treasure here on Grosse Ile. Also on the waterfront, Island volunteers developed a kayak launch in an underutilized area within our marina complex. Response has been phenomenal. Our rec department is working to further develop another launch area that will be universally accessible, a long-desired addition to our recreational offerings. Continuing on the subject of water access, those choosing to enter the paddle sport world now have the opportunity to enjoy the newly expanded wildlife refuge. The Detroit River National Wildlife Refuge surrounds the southern end of our island and promises to preserve the beauty and tranquility of our natural wetlands in perpetuity. Working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, we intend to secure additional access so all can enjoy the wonders that the refuge has to offer, especially the bald eagles I see almost daily. Back ashore, we've increased our very popular bike path system with an additional stretch along Horse Mill Road, and we continue to explore opportunities to extend the system. We can all be proud that our bike paths are recognized for their scenic beauty and safety, and that visiting cyclists feel welcome here. Walking, running, cycling, and paddling are all part of a healthy, active way of life. Thanks to another dedicated group of volunteers, we are awarded a bronze status in the state-sponsored program promoting active communities. Quite an achievement considering how very few communities received any recognition. With all we have to offer, recreation, natural beauty, the surrounding river, certainly we can promote Grosse Ile as a wonderful home for those families seeking an active lifestyle. So at the moment, we are enduring one of the most brutal winters in Michigan's history, with temperatures and snowfall records being set almost daily. These conditions are putting a tremendous strain on our resources. We will be repairing roads, water mains, and other areas of infrastructure for months to come. Please be patient. Your board has just finished a marathon round of budgeting, all of us working with the manager and finance director to develop a balanced, responsible budget. This was a concerted team effort, with all involved contributing their best efforts to finally stabilize our finances. Although we're balanced, we're not through. We will continue to find efficiencies and best practices to better deliver the services you expect for your tax dollars. More good financial news. We have a dynamic new tenant in our Commerce Park who has indicated a long-term interest in maintaining his business here. Those revenues will enable us to make improvements to the park and attract more activity. We've renewed our agreements with the operators of the Equestrian Center at Centennial Farm and the restaurant at Water's Edge. These very popular facilities will continue to provide us with unique leisure activities that separate us from other locales. Our Festival Commission is currently undertaking another mission in addition to Island Fest. They're planning and organizing a centennial celebration. Yes, Grosse Ile became a separate community with the dissolution of Mungawangit Township in 1914. A couple of interesting side notes. The Grosse Ile Toll Bridge celebrated 100 years of service this past November. And I wonder how this community would have developed without the access that that bridge has provided. Our police department will also turn 100 in 2014. It was actually formed prior to Grosse Ile's incorporation. Looking forward, a major concern to Grosse Ile residents and visitors is the condition of our roads. After all the debate regarding snow removal, some explanation still is apparently necessary. Michigan townships, unlike cities and villages, are not allocated funds for road maintenance. That was ceded to the counties decades ago. Our network of roads, many of which began on as wagon trails in the 18th century, do not easily comply with Wayne County's standards for construction and maintenance, including snow removal. Therefore, we receive little funding. Although our options are probably limited, we will continue to explore every means to secure the resources we deserve to maintain our roads in a safe and serviceable condition. Another challenge of increasing importance will be the evaluation and enforcement of our long-ignored property maintenance, and that means blight, ordinances. We've begun by reminding all residents that a tidy community will attract other like-minded residents, preserving and improving the value of all our homes and neighborhoods. Going forward, I propose we consider these as good neighbor ordinances and educate the community from that perspective. We have addressed the most egregious examples with positive results. I'm convinced that an education program will correct most of our problems involving unsightly properties. But the days of looking away are over. We have additional concerns, the major issues being the uncertainty surrounding the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, which supplies our municipal water, the onerous impacts of national health care legislation, the increased government mandates levied upon our wastewater treatment plant, but there is much good news on the horizon. Our rec department continues to seek grants and other sources of funding to expand our recreational opportunities, so look for improvements to our pool, marina, Centennial Farm throughout the year. Another positive trending includes a new business on Macomb Street, new development throughout the island, bringing families to our community, new students to our outstanding schools. So, personal safety, road repairs, access to the river, a tidier community, and numerous recreational opportunities. I've only presented a few of the challenges and opportunities awaiting us. Who knows what else is in store as we enter our second century. I'm proud to be part of a board of trustees and professional staff that is willing to work tirelessly to address and remediate, fix our problem areas and explore the new avenues that will make Grosse Ile Township an even more desirable place to live, work, and play. So let me close by asking that we all commit to making this the community we want our friends to discover, the community we are all proud to call home, and the community we want to leave for our children. Thank you for your confidence and support. I'll close with that. Best wishes to all. At this point, I'll open it to public comment as we wrap up the annual meeting. Any germane comments? If none, then I see none offered. I will accept a motion to adjourn the annual meeting. Moved by Trustee Posiask, seconded by Trustee Budley. Those in favor of adjourning the annual meeting, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered. We will stand adjourned at 8:14. Let's reconvene at, let's 8:30. There's still some snacks downstairs, and we'll start our business.